won't find it in this rule book. But what they're talking about barging is when you put yourself between an obstruction and a boat that was the right-of-way boat. So what barging term really kind of, the spirit of that term meant was two boats come into an obstruction like this, and a windward boat who clearly has no, is clearly a burdened boat, can't go between that boat and an obstruction there. They have no right to go on that side of the shack. They need to peel out.
Okay, if you're the lure guy here, right, and you want to win the race, and this guy's doing it anyway, what's the strategy there?
So, in general, don't hit them and just try to sail faster than them and get your bow in front of
Let
them.
him in and tell him to do circles?
I usually don't tell them to do circles. I try to keep my bow in front of them, get at least a half a boat length past the boat at the gun, and then head up. You'll be able to pinch someone who's bow to bow with you. If you start next to them, you'll be able to pinch them off. If their problem is this is the Pierre Libre star, he goes too fast. He doesn't know how to slow down. So just go fast with him if you're to leeward of him, and then pinch him off after the start. The key boat is whoever is the boat in front of you.
You can always drive them into the starboard side of the committee boat.
Yeah, but driving them into the boat generally means they're going to hit you first, which means 5 other boats are sailing away while you hit them. So hitting people, except very glancing blows, it's almost better to do a 360 usually than to hit somebody. I do 360s all the time. Will knows, like all the time I do a 360. I'm over early, I'll spin around. But if it hits somebody and you're hooked up with them, usually that takes longer than 10 or 15 seconds, which is just an.
Yeah, and everybody's
Right. A circle takes 5 seconds. Hitting someone takes 15, 20 seconds. Like, that's awful. And generally after you hit them, you're discombobulated and someone else is about to hit you and then you're going the wrong way and like, just stay away. So, Will, that was the other, so the other thing I want to cover was lured mark, but are we?
No, I'm good with this.
That?
Everyone else? So first of all, we've done a gate a couple times the past couple weeks. I like it. I don't know if you guys like it.
Gate?
It's kind of, I don't know, fun.
The lured mark.
So,
Yeah, the lured mark.
the good things about the gate are if it's square, it's cool.
Yeah.
If it's not square, it's
Doesn't
not
matter.
very fun.
Definite advantage.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, and it's really hard to tell from far away, so it's a little bit of luck.
But these are dyers, so they're not that far apart.
Yeah, but you can get in the wrong side too easily. So it makes the run, I think, feel like a little bit more luck and less strategy when you do a gate. The other thing is if the gate is wide, it's, the wider the gate is, the more the luck factor. Because it's like the phase, exactly what phase you're in of a shift when you get there, that totally matters. So in general, like last week the gate was way too wide. In general, the gate should be 4 boat lengths, which in a dyer is less than 30 feet.
I thought it was supposed to be 6,
4, but that's just me. 3 and 3, yes.
so that you don't have any,
But with our course,
but still, these boats are 9 feet long, so.
with our courses, they're tiny. It was, what do you think? We had like 10 boat lengths one last week, which was too long.
Well, Jim went around the unfavored end in the last race and had no problems because that was a weird race.
Which was the unfavored end?
The
Because
one closest to shore.
the right or the left? The right?
It was the left looking downwind right.
That was the favorite gate.
Why everyone?
No, it was
Because everyone followed me because I only went around the wrong one because I was trying to get Brick to make a mistake.
It seemed like it was closer.
No, it
Jim
wasn't.
around it, no problems.
Yeah, no, it was a big righty at the end there, so basically you wanted to go around the windward gate because then you tacked and you were basically in the lay line.
Yeah.
The left gate was favored.
All right, so why don't you do your talk without the gate?
Okay. So, without the gate, downwind legs, in general, you just want to get left, right? So if you're in a group of boats and you round the windward mark, the boat that gets to the left has an advantage. It's more important if you're ahead to get to the looking behind you to be to the left, because if you're the first boat to round the windward mark here, the green boat, and these boats are behind you stacked up, if you go to the right and the whole way down the leg, this boat gains 4 feet on you, and you get to 3 boat lengths, and this boat is here, this boat's ahead and this boat's behind. They gain 4 feet. Whereas if you round the windward mark and you get on this side, and this boat gains 12 feet on you, and you get to here, you're still winning. So where would you rather be? You'd always rather be to the left. You've got a lot, you can let the boats outside you pass you as long as you can keep your bow between their rudder and the mark, basically. So almost always the race from the windward mark in these windward leeward courses should be, the default should be a chase to the inside for the first boat. The second boat has to decide, right? Well, the second boat has the choice of either following the boat way inside, but at some point you've got to realize that the third boat's there, and if you keep chasing this boat this way, this guy's going to go straight and go past both of you. So you say, great, he can pass me, but he can only get 12 feet past me. So at some point, as this boat gets even with you, you need to start paralleling their course, and then this boat can start paralleling your course. In general, in small dinghy fleets, what should happen is, although we all get around the windward mark, 1, 2, 3, at the leeward mark, we should come in, you know, stacked up, something like that, or even like that, where the outside boats got ahead, but they didn't quite break the overlap. And, you know, if you're fast, you can get around the outside. So you see guys who trust their speed. Britt, Fotis, last week were great examples, always went high. They just would go high, sail around the outside, say, you know, in general, I'm faster than these guys, so I'm just going to stay out, keep my air clear, and I'm going to break all the overlaps I can. And fat guys like me come to the windward mark and just aim a little bit to the left of the windward mark and just plant in there and say, God, I hope the breeze comes from this side.
Would you adjust that regarding people covering you from right?
Yeah, I mean, if people, so a couple of times I came around and I went that way and everybody else tried to dive inside, and I just say, okay, well then I've got to go for clear air. And I go back up and find the lane. But in general, I want to find the clear air in here rather than out here, because I can't afford to let somebody get left of me. Because, and then a lot of times, you know, people don't want to jibe, so there's easier clear air on this side of the run. But you do have to be careful. So coming into the leeward mark, it's important to understand how to round the leeward mark when there are, you know, when you are the outside or the middle guy on a pinwheel. I think actually the hardest place to be is second place, generally in a group of 3. It's much easier to be the 4th place boat chasing that group of 3 into the leeward mark. What you want to make sure that you do, so the 1st place boat is just going to come around. They don't even have to worry too much. They might or might not go a little bit, if they have luffing rights, they can go a little bit wide and then jibe and have a perfect rounding. But they don't even really need to worry about that, because mostly they're going to make a fast turn, the fastest turn, which is means that they're going, the azimuth of the turn, or the center of their turn is actually here, and then they're a little bit low. The turn, if you do the geometry, is a lot faster and they're further up the course. But this guy's almost always going to do a tactical rounding because he's got this guy outside him. So he's going to try to go slow and come in and be high and try to hang with this guy. And then this guy has got to decide to do the same thing. And then where does this guy go, right? So what you want to do is, as this person, so one of the things that people do is they go, I can get in there, and they drive right at the person. So one of the ways to catch up at the leeward mark is to think about the last 5 boat lengths of the leeward mark as a downwind, as a quick reach. Broad reach up, jibe here, and broad reach down here, and do a rounding where you're coming out of the mark really fast, right? Because if you can do that, then you're going to be right behind this red boat. This red boat's going to be in bad air. You're going to be in bad air too, but you're going to have speed. So you're going to have a choice either to, give a little height, get a little height, pinch a little bit and get off them, or tack immediately because you're going to have a ton of speed coming out of that. and you can go off the other way where this boat couldn't do that. You know, they aren't going to be able to tack. But generally what you don't want to do is get to leeward mark right away and be too close to that boat. You'd rather have them be there and you still be a boat length away on a broad reach, looking up the course of these boats and figuring out how they rounded and what you want to do going into that leeward mark. So, and it will also avoid all of the problems of the pileups. Now, so I always think about the windward mark. It was like what we were talking about the first step. You want to extend from the boats behind you. At the leeward mark, you don't mind compressing the boats behind you closely, but giving yourself some room on the boats in front of you. Because when you come around that leeward mark, you'd rather come around in clear air, maybe 2 boat lengths behind that boat, going fast, and having a choice of which side to go on the beat. These boats are going to be close together. Someone's going to make a mistake. If they needed to tack, only 1 or 2 of these boats are going to be able to tack. If they want to go, if it's a big lefty and you need to go straight now, 1 or 2 of these boats are going to have to tack because they're in terrible wind. You're going to pass them by being a little bit further back and having the other boat being the first boat in a group behind yourself. So if you want to get inside, stack the boats up behind you. Don't worry about compressing back. Worry about coming off the leeward mark with that gap, just like at the starting line of a boat length, 2 boat lengths in front of your bow and clear ahead. That's why, in general, if you ever do find yourself on the outside of a pinwheel, what I generally try to do is just go with it, and I'd rather round out here.
You're in bad air.
I mean, at least then I got my bow clear. This guy, yes, he's on top of me, but I got my bow out, and I can sail. And if we get a header, I'll be okay. And if we don't, I can just keep sailing, and hopefully somebody will make a mistake. Because in general, that's what happens. Mistakes out there.
If you were coming in last, you would prefer to go around in 4th place on the outside, or you wouldn't?
I would.
Really? You wouldn't want to try to slow down?
No. So I'd rather slow down, create a gap between 3rd and 4th there, and come around with speed, with a ton of speed.
Yeah.
So come in, rather than coming into the mark like this and trying to get as close to this red boat as possible, and jibing at the last second, and going slow, and ending up down here to leeward in behind her. I'd rather say, okay, he's slow, he's rounding outside. I'll just follow him out here. I'll pretend that I have to go outside too, even though I don't. All these other boats will be coming in, and I'll just look back and go, no room. I'll jibe, out at 2 boat lengths or 3 boat lengths away from the mark, and round with a ton of speed going up, and then all options open. Right? Bow clear, clear behind, ton of speed. And that really doesn't matter. That's the same thing as being in first of those 3 boats, right? You want to round that mark with the most speed as possible, not so much even like the perfect rounding, just round going fast, so that you have all your options open to you.
Dead downwind, sailing by the lee.
I like
Or
it.
you're slightly by the lee, yeah. It's best to wait right to the mark to jibe. Jibe and the mark rounding is the same.
So I like to jibe here. So I'm sailing by the lee, coming right to the mark, but maybe a bow length or so before the mark. I jibe and let the sail all the way out, so that when I round, I'm actually trimming and I can not over trim. Because the problem is, if you wait to here, a lot of people wait to here to jibe,
Yeah.
and then they jibe and this whipsaws them around. And because it's like I'm pulling in and I'm just gonna whip.
So just before the mounting, yeah.
Get the sail over, let it out, and then make the turn. Don't start turning up. Don't start this carve motion around the mark until the sail's on the side. So don't let the sail whipsaw you into that turn.
Right.
There are some boats, lasers for example, that whipsaw is great because you've got a nice thick centerboard and it's fine. It's fine, but go ahead.
So I didn't want to break off this question track last year, but I saw you said when you sailed out on Saturday, you didn't have your rudder in, and it's a big thing, you just got the get the CE over CLR and, figure out what the balance point is. I have a new boat and I haven't done that. I'm just figuring, how important is it to really understand where the rudder goes?
It's huge.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I do it as a joke sometimes, but mostly I sail out the rudder to figure out what the heel of the boat needs to be to have a neutral helm.
So what are you balancing out? You got the heel, trim, the rate?
Forward, aft,
Yeah.
centerboard up, down. So to sail without the rudder in a dyer, you need to have the centerboard about halfway up. Like, it's impossible to sail a dyer in a straight line without the centerboard about halfway up. So you need to realize that when you put the rudder in, right, you can actually kick the center of effort forward because the rudder
Okay.
stops the transom from moving around.
Okay.
But it's mostly about the heel of the boat, especially downwind. In really light air, like Britt does this, he gets all the way like up around the mast. Fotis likes to always do this, like be all the way forward. It's okay.
Last year.
It works in really light air. It works without when there's no waves. I think it's really fast because it's definitely the least wetted surface. It's nice and round up there. It's basically like you're going downhill on one of those discs. Well, where you're deep, it just because it's deeper, it's less wetted surface, right? You're displacing more
Right.
water with less
Yeah.
area. But when it's wavy and stuff, I think that the neutral helm's much more important because you can surf better. So last week I was much further back in the boat than Britt was, and I was faster than him downwind because I was heeled to windward more and I kept the boat down so I didn't have to steer. So a little bit of centerboard down, just a little bit, big time heel, and then play your vang so that that top batten, is perfectly parallel, so that it's 100% push. You can go straight downwind and you can be really fast surfing.
The heel is to get the center of effort over the middle of the boat.
Exactly. You basically want that top batten square with the wind and like almost vertical, like and right over the centerboard, because that's like so that
I thought you wanted it peeling off to leeward.
a little bit not. I mean, it looks like it from where you're sitting, but it's not really off to leeward. If you let your vang all the way off and the boom goes up, it spills all the wind that way. I don't think it tracks very well. I don't think you can. Kevin Marks does that. He like lets his boom go way up in the air. I think it's slow. I take my vang off and then just cleat it. So I make sure it's free and then cleat it there. So the boom can't go up. As soon as the boom tries to ride up the side stay, the vang catches it, but it's not checking it. And what I'm doing is I'm watching that top batten and I'm like, if it disappears and I can't see the end of it, a little more.
John, I have a quick question about coming downwind. Yeah, port. On the run last week on Sunday, I was ahead of Ed, but he was coming up with a ton of speed. We're not near Mark, we're in the middle of the run, and he comes over the top of me to windward. And with a big shift, you had to be on starboard.
So you guys are on starboard,
Yeah, the whole time.
and he just comes and just.
We were reaching, yeah. When he's overlapped with me, should I have taken him head to win? No?
No.
Would I have?
No. So, in general, what this happens is this will happen on. You're basically broad reaching to the mark, right? So, and what's going to happen is a lot of times the puffs are going to come down this way, right? So the guys in the high lane, they're going to win, right? So the guy in the high lane comes up here and starts threatening your breeze because he's bringing the breeze with him by the time you catch it. So the good thing for you to do as the red boat, as you see him starting to catch you, bear off. So as you bear off, right, he's going to catch you. He's either going to have to follow you down. Well, what you've done there is now you've extended your lead and he's following you. And it's going to, by the time he catches you, you're going to be here and now you're going to be in a better spot.
Instead of just going.
Or he doesn't. He just plows forward, right? But as you bear off, boom, you're going to catch the shift now after he's already passed your wind. So by the time you hit the shift, he's not going to be here where he's blanketing you. You get the shift, but you never even get the puff because he's got you blanketed. So he just rockets by you and you never get it. By peeling down, you've separated enough so that when you're here, you get the shift and you're able to just surf his quarter wake, and you just stay overlap with him, and then just try to hang on his quarter wake to the leeward mark.
Now, you're not advocating two quick jives, you're just saying.
No,
oh, a
just
little more.
just a very simple, a little. You don't do it with the heel to win. Do it with the heel to winner instead of with your rudder.
I was a boat length and a half ahead of him through the whole time until.
Yeah, it happens all the time, like
until
this,
we were
and then it's
close.
then he catches one big puff, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Well, I don't know if it was his plan to take me off of concentrating, but he said, I'm ahead of you, and I looked down at him and I said, I don't think so. And then he said, oh yeah, and then he's ahead of me. Like,
yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing. That's the other thing.
I'm
is
done.
once he's here, right, all he needs to do is he goes, I'm ahead of you, I'm ahead of you, and then he just heads up a little bit, and yes, he has. Now he's broken the overlap.
Yeah.
That it makes it harder for him to do that if you get a little bit of lateral separation from him, because he's either going to chase you down there, which makes the leg longer and also makes it better when you come back up,
Sure, yeah.
right? But if he doesn't do that and he tries to get out here, it's like, great, yeah, you're ahead of me. But then as you come into the mark and he has to turn down to the mark, the overlap's going to be way easier for you to say.
As long as it's
Go ahead, as soon as you turn down, I'm going to be.
As long as it's outside 3 boat lengths.
Right. But that's a mistake. I mean, this happens in a lot of boats. That it's like what to do on that reach light when the guys from behind are going to just run you over. And in general, the thing to do is not to try to take them to the moon because you're in a fleet race. Like if it's a match race, then yeah, I'd never let a guy roll me. Like go head to wind, like just stop him. But you're not in a match race, and you're better off just.
Going hit to win is not a proper course, is it?
He doesn't have to.
Well, it
There's
doesn't
no
matter.
proper
Doesn't
course.
matter.
The
Good left.
only reason to do it is if you think
You can only rough somebody head to
He
win.
has roughing rights.
You don't want to. You generally in that situation don't want to do that. Now the other thing is the defensive move there. If you're a boat length and a half ahead of somebody, and that's and you're on a broad reach, right? Don't be afraid to keep making him chase you high
Okay.
earlier in the leg, especially if the puffs are coming from behind, right? Watch him, and the puff. Whenever it gets light, just head up to the next puff, and then as soon as the puff comes, drive down and make him snake behind you, down the course, but always defending that passing lane. This right strategy here totally matters, the context, right? There are 6 boats. If you're in a group of 6 and it's you and Ed in the middle of the beat and there's 2 boats on either side of you, you do one thing and you take the more conservative route probably of just fighting for the inside because there's going to be a lot more places at stake than Ed. And it's different if you guys are first and second and third is still the winner mark
We
and
were
clusterfuck.
4th and 5th, but there was enough separation where it was like being first and second. I was defending 4th place hard.
So
If there's nobody behind Ed, he could have taken him up would be an option.
yeah, it's an
No,
option.
there wasn't though. There was
I'm
a
saying,
parade.
if there's
following.
8 boat lengths
I wouldn't.
between Ed and the next boat,
It's an option. It's never a good option because I think in these races, Will knows. That never works. There's a lot of places to be gained. Even if you think you're 4th and 5th and 1, 2, 3 are way ahead, like one shift on the last beat, you can be first and second.
Sure. Yeah.
You guys get some
Well, that
leverage.
brings it back to the first thing you said, be closer to the people in front of you. Don't let them get that extra gain.
I very rarely engage the boats around me in terms of I talk to them and pretend I am, but I don't actually sail that way. Like, basically just go around the course as if you're out there by yourself. Talk the boats away around you to get out of your way, but don't react as if they're there. Like, the best thing to do is just get to the winner mark, get to the lure mark, get to the finish line. As if there's nobody else on the race course. Even in the regatta last week, I almost blew it. I think it was the second or third race maybe where it came around the leeward mark in 2nd place maybe, or 1st or 2nd place, and was worried about Brett. He was like in 9th at the time, but everybody went the right way, and I'm like, I'm going to go the wrong way because Britt's going the wrong way, and I don't want to lose to him. And get a 4th. Britt gets a 5th because we passed all the guys who went. He passed all the guys who went slow the right way, but I lost all the guys who went fast the right way, and it's dumb. Like, you know, like normally in a series race, if you race like that, you're gonna lose. That was 3 points. Like at the end of the regatta, I was kicking myself. Man, I should have gone for the bull in that race. I needed to be.
So working out
It was a mistake though.
for you. Yeah, for that one.
Even Jeff asked me after. He said, "What were you doing? Why'd you go that way?"
Yeah, right.
I'm like, "I wasn't worried about you and Fotis."
That was on Saturday.
Yeah. Pulled pork.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.